look at what he would want the world to be, and it's like just it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but like ruled by Christians. It's exactly. It's here's a different charismatic leader that you should follow, Estes Perkle.
Yeah, it's so strange that he. I mean, it makes sense that he doesn't see that. He's clearly a deluded person, but it's just. It just adds to the irony and the constant, like, almost, accidental satire that this is.
Yeah. Well, because he claims that American teachers, instead of teaching about Jesus in school in the godless 1970s, the teachers teach sexual education.
Oh no! Not abstinence.
And dude, the depiction of the teacher teaching sex ed is literally, the first time I saw it, it made me keel over with laughter because it is like so sincerely depicted. I almost wish that this teacher existed. This guy who was like, he gets up to the front of the class and he goes, "Kids, I think premarital sex is not just good, but necessary. Now, here are the 7 erotic zones of a woman."
Yeah, where was he in my sex ed? Jeez.
Yeah, man. Teach those kids, man. They need to know. This is important information. All the kids pulling out their little notebooks. They're like, let's go. Let's find the erotic zones.
Yes. Oh my God.
That shit is so funny. And that's an example of modern American godlessness that is welcoming the communists and making America asleep at the wheel. Mm-hmm. We already mentioned TV and the Looney Tunes, even though there's a great fucking scene where literally he's like, "This is the most evil thing you've ever seen. Does it shock you?" And it's like a father and son like enjoying Looney Tunes together. I was like, that looks kind of cool. That looks nice.
I also like
they look like they're having a good time.
That Jesus is no longer your God. Your new God is Fidel Castro. And that they have to pray to him. And then another that stuff is that sequence in particular where they're straight up like, the communists are masters at brainwashing against Jesus. They are cunning. They are subtle. And it's just like a cartoon guy who looks like Castro maniacally laughing and being like, "Now, kids, which of you believe in Jesus?" Yeah. And they're all like, "We do." And they were like, "Now, how many of you want candy?" They're like, "We do." Only Fidel Castro can give you candy.
Yeah, Jesus doesn't bring them candy and he can't produce a miracle. They were like, "Well, that sucks. Guess who can? Castro can." Cut to the shot of like Castro on the wall, all the soldiers coming in and like throwing candy at the children. They were like, "You know what? Honestly, that is a slightly less psychologically demanding form of indoctrination than what he is doing, which is like literally traumatizing and scarring children with horror films while they're in church."
I also think there's also a shot when they were mentioning the candy. I think it's a callback to it, where there's a guy that's pitting a kid down, and he's got literally just like buckets or like spoonfuls of sugar, and he just keeps plowing it into the kid's mouth. That's a form of torture. It's like, yeah, dude, these are
incredible. Like he depicts the communists at once like these old Nazi exploitation villains who roll up into American suburbia and massacre people, brutally kill people, rape people. Literally, they just start stealing kids and putting them back in the back of like Ford pickups to put them into school. Yeah, which, by the way, is a hilarious detail because for whatever reason, recently I was just listening to a great podcast called Blowback, which just covered the history of Castro's Cuba. Okay. So I literally just got like a full 10-hour lesson on it. And I learned about something that made me think about this film because get this. There was something that happened in Cuba, I want to say in like the late 1950s, and it's called Operation Peter Pan. Now, you won't even believe that this is real, but this is real. And it was right-wing Christian groups in the U.S. who essentially believed that when Cuba started becoming allies with the Soviet Union, that they were going to send the Cuban children to Russia to re-educate them. Literally what this movie is promoting here, this idea that, you know, they were going to send them to a cartoonishly evil re-education camp, essentially, and literally steal your kids from your yard to do it and send them to Russia. Now, this was all, in retrospect, based entirely on bogus documents that they linked back to, like, they suggested they linked back to, like, the CIA or something like that. This is totally fake, not real at all. But right-wing Christian groups in the United States believed it and actually helped steal kids from Cuba. And they immigrated 14,000 children from, like, rich parents from Cuba and sent them to the United States, where they, you know, some of them went to people's homes, some of them just went to orphanages, some of them, you know, who knows, they were literally just ripped from their homes and families.
It's wild.
And it's a real thing that happened. Like, these people, these right-wing Christian people literally did the thing that they said they are terrified here of Cubans doing to them. And they did it in real life. It's fucking crazy, man.
Oh my God.
And this is the kind of brain that you're operating on, like, where, like, that can happen in the world, where you're literally doing the thing that you're terrified of, that you've just made up in your head that someone you don't like is doing.
Yeah, like, I like all the close-ups that the Castro officer gets. Like, it's constant. Every time he comes into a room or anything, they give him this super sweaty close-up where he's, like, laughing maniacally. And there's one instance in particular where he goes into a person's house, like a married couple's house, and he's gonna like have his way with the wife, and his excuse is that he doesn't actually own the property, the state does.